it's going to go.
I mean, I've always believed that the universe puts people and places in sync for a reason.
Totally agree.
You know, from there, I'm not quite sure what my responsibility is, but I'm trying to muddle through like, okay, I'm here and here's the person. What do I do next? It's like, you know, do I believe in God? I don't know. He's never left me a note to say working on something or how you doing. So I have nothing to base whether, you know, I know and like God. It's but I do believe in the universe does that. I mean, three of us.
I totally believe in universal intelligence. So if that's what people are calling God, then I believe in God, right? So I do believe there's something. I do believe that we are connected to something that is intelligent, and we aren't using it the way we aren't maximizing it or using it accurately. I mean, we're missing out a lot because we all know that we get those gut feelings, we have intuition, and there's these serendipity moments that happen. But I think there's so much we're unaware of that we could be using to.
Right.
So I had a psychic, somebody I went to many times over many years, tell me that people tend to travel in the same groups lifetime after lifetime.
Oh, yeah, you have soul groups. Yeah, I had someone tell me.
I'm pretty sure you guys have been with me before.
Yeah,
I'm sure. I
think so. Somehow, some way. Yeah, totally. So, yeah.
So I've got to get something off of my brain and my chest, and it's all about the monarch, the royal family.
Go for it.
A lot of the people I know watched the whole funeral or the whole procession from beginning to end, and I thought to myself, am I just being like a snob, ignoring this and saying, no, I'm not interested in the royal family? So I thought I'd get over myself and do a little bit of research. Seeing as we always talk about women, and we are women, let me find out more about the woman, Queen Elizabeth. But I didn't want to really look at anything that was political or monarchy, if there's such a word. I wanted to get to know her as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And here are some facts about Queen Elizabeth, which I thought were quite interesting. She never went to a private or public school. She was homeschooled by 12 different tutors that came to the palace and tutored her. She was a Girl Guide and a Sea Ranger in her early days. She paid for her wedding dress with coupons, because they were at that stage, they were issued coupons and like food stamps, I guess. And so that's how she paid for her wedding dress, which I think is quite fascinating. Her husband, Prince Philip, had a nickname for her, and it was Cabbage.
Why? Do you know?
No, I haven't dug into that. I still have. And she actually posted her first Instagram in 2019, and she only gave one interview in her entire life with any news source. She gave one private interview. And this is what I thought was really put a smile on my face, because her private secretary asked her upon her accession to the throne what she had decided on her regal name would be. And this is, quote, her answer: "My own, of course. What else?" So she, to me, just that one statement, she was a current queen forever.
Mm-hmm. So, she was pretty extraordinary. If you sort of take, the politics out of it, and if you take the colonialism out, I mean,
Yeah.
But if you kind of just look at her like you did, she was a pretty extraordinary woman. I mean, she really was up against a lot of it her whole life. You know what I mean? Really. I mean, and she, and she did make changes. I think through her lifetime, she did sort of make some changes, in terms of, I think the whole thing when Diana died, like she was also savvy, smart too. Let's not say, she was really a politician in a lot of ways, and she knew what she needed to do. But I sent you guys a blurb that I had seen about her, and it said, it has been women who have breathed gentleness and care into the harsh progress of mankind. And I thought that was a pretty interesting quote from her, because partly true, I think, too.
So let me tag on to that, because this is a great, and Kathy, you can pick this up, but here's a quote about a recent person, and it's from The Guardian, and it's dated September 28th, 2022, so very recently. And the quote is, "She is no Mussolini, but she may be a Trump." Who are we talking about?
Giorgia Meloni.
Yes.
Giorgia Meloni. So I just want to preface this by saying that I am not an Italian citizen, so I can't vote. And so I don't get overly involved in Italian politics. Okay. And Italian politics are very difficult to follow and very difficult to understand. And I mean, coming from a different system, I would say. I've been here 28 years, and still sometimes I'm like, what? How are you guys doing that?
Mm.
So she created an incredible conflict for me the past 2 weeks, which I resolved yesterday. So I want to share that. And I don't think you guys are going to like how I see it, but I'm going to tell you. I think maybe a lot of people listening won't like it either, but this is what I've come to. So my husband, who is very into politics, and my daughter, who got her degree in political science from Brown and is studying human rights at London School of Economics, so is super into politics. They have two different views on her. So my husband would say to you, don't let the media, the CNN, the Guardian, the New York Times, like they're running with this. She's like, it's not as right as you think it is. It's not as extreme as you think it is. Then my daughter would say, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But another thing I'd like you guys to know before then I tell you what I really think is that, she's a far right, but you have to understand that the far right principles in Italy do not line up with our far right principles. So yes, she is very into Christian values and traditional family. So she has not spoken out against, she has not said she believes that, abortion should be illegal. She has not said she doesn't think, that homosexual people should be married. She hasn't said any direct thing, but you could assume what you want to assume, okay? She was raised by a single mom. She did make a statement at some point in time that she's very glad her mother did not abort her. Okay, so what does that mean? So we don't know, because my husband today at lunch, he said, you have to be very careful what you're interpreting with what's the facts.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the far right in Italy, they would like to see Google and Microsoft and Amazon pay taxes to the European Union. Okay, so then you go, oh, well that, so if you're on the left, you go, oh yeah, well that. So the thing we have to be careful is, it's not a complete matchup. So before you go, oh, she's the far right, then she's everything that I am not. Okay. However, what I argued with my husband today at lunch was about, well, if you think abortion should be legal, why aren't you just saying it? Why do you have to say, I believe in a traditional family, right? So I'm saying I'm a little leery about her. I would like you all also listening to know that in the last 8 years, we've had 6 prime ministers. Yeah. So, she's probably going to be around for like a year and a half. So we don't get as riled up about who goes into office as in the States. That said, the conflict that I've had for 2 weeks is being thrilled. How do you handle being thrilled that a glass ceiling was broken? I mean, in Italy of all countries, we have a female prime minister. It's a very narcissistic country still, in ways far more than America's. And it also says a little bit about America, like how did we end up with a female prime minister before America? We ended up with a female president, but that would be another discussion. So being thrilled about that, she's also 46 or 47 years old. So, wow, we're eliminating that old person running things. but not liking her. What I think, I don't like her, all of her policies. Like, I'm worried about them. And there is this, a little bit of understanding, kind of like, how to get the populist base around the world that's agitated, playing into that. So being very kind of anti-establishment. But in the words of my daughter, saying it's kind of funny, all the anti-establishment people, because once you're elected, you are the establishment.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, where does the base not understand? Like, but now they're elected, they become the establishment. And then when they realize, if they didn't already know, that they are now in the establishment and you can't just unravel the establishment so easily. So the inner conflict I had with myself is, which is more important, that there's a woman or that there's somebody that I like? Okay. And this is the question. So I have yet, just so you know, I haven't been able, because, I had this client working the last 2 weeks. So I haven't had a serious political conversation with a close friend about this yet. Okay. So I've just kind of had some very casual conversations, like waiting to get on the boat or something. And so far, all the women that I've had casual conversations with have said, it's so positive that we have, and they're really proud and they're happy that we have a female prime minister. And that's where the positivity is.
Yeah, right? Because nobody wants to say what could come next. So,
okay. So
I'm going to weigh in.
But there is a sense of, oh my God,
right.
We finally have one. Mm-hmm. So, side note, and this is where you guys are going to probably go. So back in the day when I was still Republican, and John McCain was running for president, whom I really thought would make a good president, and I really thought deserved to be the president of the United States after about his life of service and everything he had given. When he picked Sarah Palin to be his running mate, I was actually excited about it because she was a woman. And not a single person that I knew, everyone jumped on me and went crazy. She's an idiot. She's just not, my take on her was, she's not a complete idiot, right? So was she completely uninformed in international politics? Whatever, but that wasn't my point. Back then, and I don't know if anybody remembers what year that would have been, I don't remember. What I understood is that until we have women, good or bad, idiots or geniuses, in these positions, we are never going to go forward. So this is what I said to myself and how I solved my conflict. Is my sequence of importance, what's more important to me? That there's a woman gets into the top spot in office, or the person that is or man, because I like his policy. Okay. Second question I ask myself is it more important to have a woman be in office or a perfect woman be in office?
Okay, but you can look at that in a different way.
Hold on, I'm going to give you my answer and then you guys go. In 2 weeks of thinking about this, for me and what I believe is, we need the 6, 7, 8, and 9-year-old girls in elementary school who have no idea what politics are and what anybody's views are. Who you ask them, what do you want to be in Italy? And they're going to tell you, a teacher, a mommy, a nurse. Okay. We need them to go, that bossy 6-year-old, the bossy one that we call bossy because she's going to be a leader one day, to go, I'm going to run Italy one day, because she sees Giorgia Meloni. And the fact of whether Giorgia Meloni is going to take us apart or not take us apart, but the fact that in 40 or 50 years, we're going to have this fabulous woman running our country is because a 6-year-old can see what she can be. And the boys around her know that, oh, I can vote for a woman because I've seen a woman become this. And so what I'm going to say, that I've come to the conclusion, is that I think we need to be happy if we want to, if our goal is to move women's rights forward and to get excellent women in positions of power, we have to at least be happy when we hit that goal, even if we don't like the person in power. So that's my take on it. Maybe you guys don't agree, but that's the conflict I went through because I couldn't quite celebrate. And I came to the conclusion yesterday, I'm happy. We got a woman in there. She worked her ass off. She had to go up against all those men, all those years in a country that, let me tell you, who knows what happened to her. And she did it. So good for her.
Patty, you got 5 minutes on this one.
Sorry, that was long.
I mean, listen, I get what you're saying, believe me. But I have to say to you that my concern in the world is more about ideology than it's a woman or a man who wins, quite frankly. And I was going to do a blog on her. And so I haven't done it yet because I knew we were going to do this. So I just kind of went through and did a lot of research and, see who she is and what she says. And I'm just going to read a couple things because this would make me really nervous, considering that we just went through a person very much like what your new prime minister is like. Okay.
Let me hold on just a minute. I do want to say she is nothing like Trump. She's
let me
very
just read.
Intelligent. But she's very intelligent. Okay.
Right.
My hand is raised, Patty. So I want to ask you, your research and your comments, is it based on because she's a woman or because she's in the position she's in?
I wanted to know her politics more than anything.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I was looking at. I mean, I certainly
tell me your source where you read this from?
I just really Googled a bunch of different things, just a bunch of different things about her and kind of like went through and read it and things that jumped out at me that I thought were sort of interesting. You're right. She has been, she worked pretty hard to get there. I'll give her that. I mean, her personal, stats are sort of interesting. But some of the things she's saying, and this is one of the things she said out loud, that her goal was a society based not on individual rights guaranteed by European law, but on sovereign authoritarianism. Okay. Now that's a lot of big words. And when you take it apart, that's a little scary to me. She has actually said traditional families are the bedrock of society. Okay. She describes what she calls, the LGBTQ community as hobbies and lobbyists, and that she does not support adoption by single parents. She doesn't support adoption by gay parents. So I understand, that's everything you're saying about a woman being in power is interesting. And I don't disagree with some of it, but I think you have to take a look. Like, I particularly really like Liz Cheney. I think that, Liz Cheney has bigger balls than most of the men in Congress. Would I be happy if she ran for president? Absolutely not, because we disagree on everything about how we should proceed in the world, in the US. She voted with Trump 99% of the time on his policies. So yeah, is she an amazing, smart, aggressive woman who is going to run for president? Because I think she is. But am I going to be happy about that? Not really, because I truly disagree with the direction she wants to go in. And Kathy, I think to a great degree, you haven't really seen what she's going to do yet. But like, one of her best political buddies is Viktor Orban, and she's been photographed with him over and over and over again. And she's also good buddies with Marine Le Pen, who was just lost in France, who is even more extreme, I think, than conservatives in the US. So it's a really, my thing is sort of like, I really feel like the world is in a very dangerous place. And I get why people voted for, I think people are, there's a lot of like refugees in the world now. I get it. I think that there's some fear there. I watched an interesting interview. I'll just say this, just popped up. Bill Clinton just gave an interview like 3 days ago about the midterms and things here. And he said, oh, the Republicans are really good. They're doing it again. Like they're going to scare you to death. Like, they're going to talk about all the stuff that scares people, and they do it all the time, and they're really good at it, and they're doing it now, and they are. And, that is that's a tactic and a strategy to scare people into voting for things that aren't progressive, but in my mind are incredibly regressive. The last thing I'm going to say about her is her motto is exactly the same motto as Mussolini was. And what she says are, I think it's God, homeland, and family. Well, that's great, but those 3 words used in a certain way scare the hell out of me.
Okay, so here's what I want to tell you to calm down your fear. Literally, she won't be I give her 18 months most. Okay,
Well,
so
and maybe, I hope, but
it's difficult for Americans to understand, like, even in the UK, which just happened, as soon as we don't like you, because we don't elect you, we elect the party, and then the party decides who it's going to be. Okay. So, just trust me, she won't be around very long. One of the things you guys need to understand what's going on is that there are people in all of the European countries. So there's a group of people in each country that doesn't like being part of the European Union.
right.
So this is where you get this homeland. Okay.
Yes.
But one of the things that you guys need to understand is that the last person that went like this, and was creating problems within the European Union, and the economy here was not doing well, was Berlusconi. He was removed by whoever runs the world, basically. And we didn't vote on a party or anything at that point. It was the first time I was like, we're not in a democracy. They put this man named Prodi, who was, educated in the UK and America. He had worked for Goldman Sachs for a long time. He was very good in terms of finance. And the reason that is, so something I'm not sure that Americans really realize is we're the 7th largest economy in the world. And if Italy goes down, so if Italy pulls out of the EU will unravel completely.
Right.
If the EU, if anything happens to Europe and Europe crumbles, that's the crumbling of the entire world economy, right? So this is why I'm saying we will stay in the EU, because we will never be allowed to leave the EU because of what it will do to the overall world economy. So she can go rah rah all she wants, and either she will now silence that because she's in office. Because my little bit of research on her was how much she's changed. What she said, she was for Putin, now she's not for Putin. She tends to be kind of like a little bit, where I find her a lot like Trump, is how wishy-washy he can be. He can just say what he wants to say to the right people to rile up people. But I do think if she pulls on the things that she says she stands for, she will not last for very long. Because I'm going to tell you guys, the person that was placed in the role, Draghi, who ran the European Union Bank and is literally credited with saving the European Union when it started having problems. He got his PhD in economics from MIT. He does not want to run for office, but I can guarantee you she will most likely be plucked, and he will most likely be slid back in, because he was instrumental in getting the European Union to be bonded together to support the Ukraine. Really, really super intelligent individual, not into politics, into doing his job. So anyway, just to kind of give your fear on her. But it's interesting to me, because I do feel like if we're always going on ideology, how do we get women moving forward?
Right. So on that point, I'm gonna sort of wrap this one up, but not put the bow on, because I think we need to have more discussion about this. And I love the fact, Kathy, that you brought up and said, is it because she's a woman, or is it because he is a person? I think we need to maybe look into that and dig deep into our own feelings and find out, are we looking at women because woman, or are we looking at the person for the job, regardless of whether they're a woman or a man? So we're going to put that in the parking lot. Two people I want to just throw out to you to keep an eye on, because I've been looking at some things here. So 2 women in the US who I think would make amazing. I think we'll see more of them. One is Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan. She's up for re-election. She's awesome. She's amazing. I really, really like her. And I don't necessarily agree with everything, but she is really
dynamic. And I think is going to go way further than just the governor of Michigan. And the other one is a state senator from Michigan, and her name is Mallory McMorrow. And she's pretty young. She's 35 years old. She went to Notre Dame. She is running for re-election, and she has really come up against a pretty difficult candidate opponent who has kind of really ripped her up a bit. But she's
the one who went viral for saying I'm a suburban mom.
She did. She's amazing. So they're two to keep an eye on who, I'm sort of keeping an eye on. I think they're both, kind of upcomer doers. And, I think they share a lot of things I'd like to see happen in the country and the world. So, yeah.
Cool. So we'll get back with them. I want to touch on Unveiled and Furious, which was a tagline from the New York Times. We're talking about Iran.
Yeah.
Patty, what have you got on this?
I've just really been watching. I'm worried. I'm really worried is what my absolute gut feeling is. I've been watching it. I've been, looking at social media and, translating everything that's coming through. God bless them. I mean, I am like that. They are fierce and they are pissed off, and it is, really young women. But I don't know, I wonder how much longer that regime is going to put up with it. That's my concern, because if they decide to clamp down tougher than they're clamping down now, it's going to get pretty bad, I think. And I don't see, there's a lot of men, there's a lot of older, there's a lot of people in Iran that are pissed about what's going on there. But I just, watch the guy, that leader, I can't think of his name now, but watch his interviews, because he's a dangerous guy and he is only going to put up with this so much longer, I think. I would love to see something come of it. I absolutely would. But they are fierce. Women around the world, every country, take a page out of that book, because they are putting their lives on the line every minute. So,
traditionally they would have really stepped on this right away. And why are they letting it go on and on? Which I'm glad it is, but it's not.
I think
from my understanding, I don't remember what interview I saw, but they go in waves where sometimes the woman can get away with it a little bit. Like they go in waves where a policeman will tell a woman, cover your hair, and she'll go, who are you to tell me? Right. And then suddenly they'll decide they're going to crack down. So maybe for a few years it goes like that, and it comes out of, it comes out of nowhere for them. Right? Where all of a sudden today we're going to crack down, which is kind of what happened at this moment in time.
I think part of what's happening there, though, is that, he is really blaming the West. So it's, now you're seeing where they're coming out and saying, this is propaganda. This is the Western influence. This is the United States influence on our people here. So in a way, blaming us and picking a fight with the West, which I think is working probably politically for them. But that's completely not true. These are, Iranian women, high school students who are I want to go out and do what everybody else, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm going to now cut my hair and burn my hijab. That to me, but I think maybe part of it is blaming the West. We have become, look at what a bad influence we are, so much so that now this is what's happening in our country.
Well, we are a bad influence. We are a bad influence. I like that they like this headline, Unveiled and Furious, because we're unveiled and furious as women in the United States. Think about the Me Too movement, to have the courage. So what they're doing is different because they can be killed. But to have the courage to ruin your life, to go to and give interviews and be attacked, because imagine the haters in your life and the death threats you're getting. The women who came out against the Me Too movement at that level, they became unveiled, and they were furious, and they became unveiled. Right. After, what went on with our abortion rights, we literally became unveiled and furious. And so what I think is interesting energetically and what's happening around the world is there's a common thread of women are pissed off
Mhm.
and we are unveiling ourselves. We're like,
Mhm.
enough. Unveiling in the sense that I'm now going to share my point of view and go out, and I don't care what you think, mom, and I don't care what you think, sister-in-law, and I don't care what you think, boss. I'm going to protest. I'm going to do this. So there's a similarity there. It's just that the punishment,
Yeah, you know what, I
the
can say whatever.
consequence is quite different.
I mean, I say, my social media, I mean, I'm pretty all over it, but, I also pretty much know that hopefully no one is coming in the middle of the night to take me away and I'll never be heard from again. And that is happening right now to probably hundreds of women in Iran. And that's the scary,
Thousands, from what I understand. I
Yeah.
didn't send this
Right.
to you guys because it was in French and it was translated with Italian subtitles, but they were touting this send around to a woman who's an Iranian woman who lives in Paris. And she was giving all the details about what's been going on all these years. And we're talking about thousands and thousands of women who have been killed.
Right.
Mhm.
So that's really monumental to me. When you are literally willing to put your life on the line for what you believe in, that is monumental. I mean, there is nothing else that comes close to that, really,
Yeah.
I think. So, yeah.
I'm going to close this out by saying that my feeling is that the Unveiled and Furious tag is exactly where we need to be. I think from the past, we have been furious, but we have not unveiled. And I think this unveiling of women really just stripping that furiousness and doing something about it, or saying something about it, or actually unveiling themselves and sticking with it. So, I mean, it's hard, as you said, the consequences there are far, far greater than the consequences that we have here in this country. But still, I think there's this similar tag that goes, or similar thread that runs with every country and women's rights. So I want to ask you quickly, each of you, who has moved you this week?
For me, just to think of something positive, these are heavy subjects, is the Nobel Prizes are coming out this week. And so who moved me was, I want to say her name right, Carolyn Bertolzi. Yeah. She won the Nobel Prize in chemistry. She's only the 8th woman to win the Nobel Prize in chemistry. She's also openly lesbian, which is very unusual in the scientific community. And I mean, if you Google her and you look at all the things that she has given us, unbelievable. She's American. And so I just feel like, shout out to, one of the few women, all the physics are men, the other science people are men. Just, in that field, any woman who can plug along and do their job and create and innovate and get to positions of heads of departments and institutes in a man's world, which we know, obviously in the scientific community is. I mean, that's inspiring, good for her, and happy that she is recognized.
I saw that today. I haven't really read about it, but I just saw that there was like a headline today I saw, so that was kind of a cool thing. I'm going to do something completely different this week. I'm going to say World Central Kitchen is who I'm moved by this week. And it's an extraordinary, amazing organization. What they are doing, I mean, clearly for those who see this or knowing about the destruction in Southwest Florida, they have been there. They are flying helicopters into places where people can't get food and water to deliver food and water. They have an organization that is set up all the way from Fort Myers, all the way past Tampa, with chefs along the Southwest, the West Coast, where they are actually, trucking meals into people, trucking water into people. They are not only doing the hurricane victims, they're doing Ukraine, they're doing Puerto Rico. I mean, this is an amazing organization that goes to show you what people can do.
What people can do, what one person.
Well, really, but having been donor, we've actually known him. We've actually got to meet him, which was an amazing thing. And we've been giving money to that organization for a lot of years now, from when they first started. And I would say, though, he will tell you it's his team.
Absolutely, I see what, but my point is, one person said, I'm going to fly there. He didn't go knowing that this was what was going to end up happening. He said, I can cook. I'm going to go there and figured out what to do.
Right.
And so when people say, you know, what's the use? What's the use?
One person, you're right.
Change anything.
Yeah.
One person has, like you say,
Right.
he is on the ground within 24 hours in every place.
Right.
Every place.
So I think that's really, that gives me a lot of hope, I think, because, you know, it's really just a remarkable thing. So my plug is, if you're looking for somewhere to donate.
I donate, every disaster, I give them money. Every time he moves in a new place, I give him money. Because he really made me realize, if we are hungry, what do we do?
Yeah.
Nothing.
I mean,
I've
always felt that hunger is probably the worst disaster that anybody or any country or any town could ever have, and it really is the easiest thing that we can provide for them.
You know what? I say this because I'm just remembering it, and then we'll. But Washington just had a conference on poverty and hunger, and he was there. He spoke there, and it's the first time that conference has happened in, I don't know, like 10 years or something. And they brought a lot of people together to talk about ending poverty in the world, basically. And I thought that was, you know, that's another thing he's pretty focused on. And that just the fact that exists again, so they're talking about that, ending hunger, that's remarkable too. So yeah.
Kudos to them. Well, mine this week is a journalist, Christiane Amanpour, who is British Iranian, and just her guts. I mean, she has guts of steel. She goes into the most dangerous places. I know just by reading her bio that she's gone through some tough times this year personally, but you look at her reporting right now and you just see that strength of a woman, really. And I love the fact that she says our job is to give all sides an equal hearing, but not in genocide and human rights. So that's my shout out. I love listening to her. She is just so strong and so direct and with such a mission. So that's my call out person.
She is so
I know. Yeah, no, she's fantastic. I do want to mention before I give what's coming up next time we meet, somebody mentioned the hurricanes here in Florida. It was tough, and it is still tough. There have been many, many, many deaths and many families stripped apart. I read of a girls' getaway weekend where these women were celebrating a friend's birthday, and they had to go up to the 3rd floor of their house on mattresses to survive. And unfortunately, one did not, because the ceiling caved in and one of the nails penetrated her and she passed away. I cannot imagine anything worse to watch than to have a celebration end in such a disaster. So yes, food is needed, supplies are needed, but I just want to give a shout out to the people that were affected by this casualty. So give yourselves a minute every day just to remember, okay? I don't think because Florida gets so many hurricanes, a lot of people say, oh, another hurricane. This wasn't just another hurricane. This was a disaster.
I also am really inspired by the people rescuing them.
Oh.
Because what I find interesting is how people who rescue people, so they're told to evacuate. And then these people don't evacuate, but the people rescuing them, they don't care.
Yeah.
The people rescuing them are like, my job is to rescue you.
Yeah.
Even if you chose to stay. And the way that the people rescuing them are risking their lives for the people who also chose to stay.
Yeah.
And I know they're also rescuing people who maybe couldn't get out because turned paths, late, but
they're the heroes. They really are heroes.
They really are. So what's coming up next? I just want to say that there's midterms. So Patty, you're on that project, and something fascinating that you guys text me the other day. And Kathy, if you'll pick this one up, it's the National Women's Soccer League.
Yeah.
Not going to say anything more. I was absolutely stunned at what I learned. Stunned at what
I will
learned.
say to anybody listening, read the article that was in the New York Times yesterday. It is chilling.
So that, I think, is a definite conversation. So in closing, thank you, ladies. I just want to say that my surge forward often was because I've got my co-host lying in the back of the couch. He's a 2-year-old boxer, and he's fast asleep. So the occasional snoring was not me. It was Zimbabwe lying at the back. So, and when he stretches, he pushes me off the couch. So, see you. Here he comes.
Good conversation. Thank you so much again.
Yes.
Take care.
Thanks, guys. Have a
Bye,
great
everybody.
Okay,
Bye-bye.